I never thought I would see the day when the mighty HOA President's own husband got caught breaking the very rules she forced on the rest of us. But life, it seems, has a wicked sense of humor. It all started one quiet Saturday morning. I was out front trimming my hedges, trying to avoid any new violations. The HOA in our neighborhood was notorious for nitpicking: grass length, mailbox color, the angle of your trash can lid. You name it, they find it. And at the center of all that chaos was our president, Karen Nichols. Yes, her name was actually Karen. She was the kind of person who measured power in clipboards and penalties. For years, she had made my life miserable. I once got a warning because my front doormat said, "Go away." She said it set a negative tone for the community. Another time, she threatened a $250 fine because I parked half an inch too close to the sidewalk. So, you can imagine how much joy I felt when karma finally decided to step in. That morning, I noticed a shiny red truck parked right on the street in front of Karen's house. It looked new. Massive tires, chrome grille, loud enough to scare birds from 3 blocks away. And there was her husband, Doug, unloading fishing gear from the back. Now here is the thing. The HOA had a strict, no street parking overnight policy. Guess who wrote that rule? Karen herself. She said it was to keep the community visually appealing. And guess what time it was when I spotted Doug's truck still there? 10:00 a.m., meaning it had been parked all night. I almost laughed out loud. At first I thought, no, do not get involved. But then I remembered the time Karen fined my neighbor's kid for chalk drawings on the sidewalk, calling it vandalism. Or the time she made me repaint my fence because she did not like the shade of brown. No, I was not letting this go. So, I grabbed my phone, walked casually to my mailbox, and snapped a few photos. The truck, the house number, the time on my watch, all the evidence I needed. Later that afternoon, I drafted a very polite email to the HOA Compliance Board, minus Karen, of course, since she was the one under suspicion this time. Dear Board, I wanted to bring to your attention a potential violation of the overnight parking rule at the Nichols residence. Please see attached photos taken this morning. Regards, a concerned resident. I hit send, smiled, and went back to enjoying my coffee. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. It was an HOA alert email. The subject line read, "Reminder, street parking prohibited overnight." That was fast. The board had already circulated a reminder, which meant my report hit them right where it hurt. But the real fun started the next morning. As I was walking my dog past Karen's house, I saw her standing in her driveway, hands on hips, glaring at Doug like she was ready to file him for a violation. Doug looked completely confused. He said something, she waved her clipboard around, and he just shrugged and walked back inside. Later I learned from my neighbor Tom, who had a front row view, that Karen actually tried to convince the board to dismiss the violation because it was her husband's truck, not a resident's. The board, tired of her hypocrisy, told her that rules were rules. And get this, she got fined $200. When I read the notice on the community portal, I almost spit out my drink. After years of terrorizing everyone with her petty enforcement, Karen herself was officially fined under her own rulebook. Now, a normal person might have celebrated quietly, but I am not normal when it comes to HOA revenge. I decided to take things just a bit further. That evening, I parked my car in my driveway, set up my lawn chair, and waited for her to drive by during her usual inspection rounds. When she did, I smiled, waved, and said loudly enough for her to hear, "Hey Karen, saw the new red truck out front. Nice to see the HOA is so flexible these days." She froze for a second, forced a smile, and then sped off without saying a word. It was glorious. For the first time, the neighborhood started whispering, not about us rule breakers, but about Karen. People who were once scared to speak up started talking in the open. Someone even posted an anonymous note on the community board that said, "If the HOA president cannot follow her own rules, maybe it is time for new leadership." By the next day, that post had 20 likes and 3 "I agree" comments. Karen was furious. She sent an all-caps email to everyone about respecting community order and avoiding gossip. But that just made it worse, because now everyone knew. The president's own husband broke the rules, and she could not do a thing about it. After the news about Karen's fine spread around, the whole neighborhood started acting different. It was like the fear spell had been broken. People who used to whisper now laughed openly about the red truck incident. Someone even printed a fake parking ticket and stuck it on a lamppost with a note that said, "Reserved for Karen's husband. Rule exemption zone." Every time I passed it, I could not help but grin. Of course, Karen tried to pretend everything was fine. She kept her perfect smile during HOA meetings and her community watch walks, but her eyes told another story: frustration, embarrassment, and pure fury. During the next HOA meeting, she tried to regain control. The room was unusually full that evening. Usually, these meetings were half empty because no one wanted to sit through an hour of her lecturing about lawn heights. But this time, everyone showed up, and everyone wanted answers. Karen started with her usual professional tone. "Let us move on to new business. We have received multiple reports of improper signage and—" Someone interrupted. "Before that, can we talk about the fine issued to your husband?" The room went silent. Karen blinked, forced a laugh, and said, "That is a personal matter. It has already been handled according to procedure." Then I spoke up from the back. "But you fined me last year for having my recycling bin out 10 minutes late. You said no one is above the rules. So, what makes your husband special?" The room murmured in agreement. A few people even clapped. Her face turned bright red. She adjusted her glasses and said through a tight smile, "Well, in this case, there were special circumstances." "Like what?" I asked. She paused. You could tell she had no answer ready. Finally, she sighed and said, "It was a simple misunderstanding." That was the moment the room turned. Tom, my next-door neighbor, stood up and said, "You mean like when you fined me for my son's lemonade stand? Because that was a misunderstanding too." Laughter broke out, and Karen's fake smile vanished. For the first time, she did not have control. The board members exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable. One of them, a quiet man named Bill, finally spoke up. "Maybe we need to review how our rules are applied. It is only fair that everyone, including board members, be treated equally." The crowd applauded. Karen slammed her binder shut. "Fine. If that is what you all want, we can vote on it." She thought no one would dare, but this time everyone raised their hands. Even 2 of the board members voted in favor. It was official. The HOA would conduct a policy audit to ensure fairness. That may not sound like much, but in HOA language, that is basically saying, "We are checking your power." After that meeting, Karen's behavior changed. She stopped walking around with her clipboard. She started parking her car in the garage instead of patrolling the streets. And for the first time since I had lived there, my mailbox stayed empty of warning letters. But Doug, her husband, seemed to enjoy the whole thing. A few days later, I was washing my car when he walked over, smirking. "Hey, you are the guy who reported my truck, right?" I froze, unsure how he would react. "Yeah, that was me." He laughed. "Good. She needed that. You have no idea how many nights she lectured me about other people's lawns. It was about time she got a taste of her own rules." We both burst out laughing. Turns out Doug had been fed up for years. He told me, "Man, she treats this HOA like it is the Pentagon. Every time I forget to close the trash lid, she writes herself a note to document it. I married a clipboard." From that moment, Doug and I became unexpected allies. Over the next few weeks, he started accidentally bending more HOA rules, leaving his truck in the driveway, setting up a grill on the front porch, even putting up a small "Go Fishing" flag. Each time, Karen tried to act like it was fine, but the board and the neighbors kept calling her out. The woman who once fined everyone for the smallest infractions was now trapped by her own system and her own husband. By the end of the month, the HOA board called for an emergency vote to elect a new president. Karen tried to play it cool, saying, "If anyone feels they could do better, by all means, nominate yourselves." Tom raised his hand immediately. "I nominate Bill." Someone else shouted, "Seconded!" And just like that, the room filled with raised hands. Bill was elected unanimously. Karen sat there, stunned, gripping her binder like it was her last piece of power. The moment Bill took over, he announced, First order of business: removing unnecessary fines and restoring community trust. The whole room cheered. Karen quietly got up, gathered her papers, and walked out. Doug followed her, shaking his head and mouthing to me, "Thank you." It was poetic. After years of control and hypocrisy, the Queen of Fines had been dethroned by her own rules, her own husband, and a community she underestimated. After Karen lost her throne, the entire neighborhood felt lighter, like someone had lifted a 100-pound clipboard off our backs. You could feel it in the air. People were smiling again. Kids played outside without worrying about noise violations, and Tom even put up string lights across his porch, something Karen once banned for being too festive. But the best part? No more random fines, no warning slips, no compliance checks, just peace and quiet, the kind that makes you realize how tense things used to be. A few days after the vote, I saw Karen and Doug walking their dog past my house. It was early evening, the sun was setting, and Doug looked relaxed, but Karen, not so much. She was wearing sunglasses even though it was almost dark, maybe to hide the embarrassment. When they passed by, I smiled and said, "Evening, Karen. Lovely night for a walk. No rule against that, right?" Doug laughed out loud. Karen did not even look at me. She just muttered something like, "Enjoy your lawn while it lasts." Doug winked and said, "Oh, I think he plans to." After that, it became kind of a running joke in the neighborhood. Every time someone broke one of the old, ridiculous HOA rules, they would say, "Better ask Karen first," and everyone would laugh. It was all harmless fun, but it drove her crazy. One afternoon, I was sitting in my yard when Doug came by again, holding a small cooler. "Mind if I sit for a bit?" he asked. "Of course," I said. "You earned it." He cracked open a soda, sighed, and said, "You know, since she stepped down, she has been driving me nuts at home, keeps trying to reorganize the fridge by categories. I think she misses giving orders." I laughed. "You should give her a little HOA badge to wear around the kitchen." He grinned. "Already did. Printed it myself. She did not find it funny." We both burst out laughing until tears rolled down our faces. Then he said something that stuck with me. "You know, I never thought I would say this, but that fine, the one that started all this, might have been the best thing that ever happened to her. She needed to slow down. She forgot this was supposed to be a neighborhood, not a dictatorship." And he was right. A few weeks later, at the next HOA meeting, the first one without Karen in charge, Bill opened by saying, "Our new mission is simple, to build community, not control it." The crowd clapped. Someone even brought cookies. It felt less like a courtroom and more like a family gathering. When the meeting ended, I noticed Karen standing outside, watching from a distance. She did not come in, just looked through the window quietly. For a second, I almost felt bad for her. But then Doug walked up behind her, holding her hand. She looked calmer, softer even. Maybe losing power helped her find some peace. A week later, a notice appeared on the HOA bulletin board. It read, "The Nichols family will be hosting a neighborhood barbecue this Saturday. All are welcome." That shocked everyone. When Saturday came, nearly every house showed up. Karen had made enough food to feed an army. Burgers, ribs, salads, the works. Doug manned the grill while she handled the desserts. Halfway through the evening, Karen raised her glass and said, "I know I was strict, maybe too strict, but this neighborhood is beautiful because people here care, even if we sometimes care too loudly." Everyone laughed. Then she looked right at me and said, "And to whoever reported my husband's truck, I owe you one. You taught me something about fairness." I raised my soda and said, "Glad to help, anytime." That broke the tension completely. People clapped, music started playing, and for the first time in years, Karen actually fit in. As the night ended, I walked home under the streetlights, feeling good. Not because someone lost or someone won, but because the whole neighborhood finally remembered what it felt like to be human again. Karen never became president again, and Doug kept parking that red truck wherever he wanted, within reason. But now, instead of notes and fines, we had waves and smiles. Sometimes I still tease Doug when I see him. You know your truck's technically 5 inches over the line. He just grins and says, "Go ahead, report me. I dare you." And every time, we both laugh. Because the HOA may still exist in counties, but the fear, the pettiness, the power trips, those were gone. All thanks to one red truck and a little poetic justice.